Veteran Day, Captain Beau Hufstetler, the new commanding officer of the Joint Reserve Base in Fort Worth. He serves all branches of the military by commanding that base. We're going to be on the air in just a second, so stick around, share this. It's going to be a great opportunity to hear about a great American Naval Academy graduate. So stay with us. This is Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. Welcome to the Veterans Impact Show, where our motto is Charlie Mike. Continue the mission. I'm your host, Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy Vietnam veteran and certified senior advisor. Join me as we feature veterans who continue the mission of leadership and commitment in our communities after serving our great nation. Why, you never know who you're going to meet or where we're going to go. So welcome aboard. What a great day. And I got to tell you, get out and enjoy. There's so many wonderful veterans activities going on right now. And if you know a veteran that's stuck at home and needs a ride, give them a ride and take them someplace fun. If nothing else, take them to a mall or take them out for lunch. I got to tell you also, I want to say a special thank you to DBTV Network and all they're doing for us to put us on Amazon Prime or Amazon Fire, and Roku, and to the AUN network out in Northern California. All they're doing for us as well. We're fantastically appreciative of them taking our show and spreading it around the world. I want you to please join us on YouTube, Facebook, and go to at 9 o'clock Saturday mornings. You'll see this program next week. So how about that? It's also brought to you by Fairway Independent Mortgage, my company, and I work with them and have a great time. I've been with them quite a while. I specialize in reverse mortgages. My NMLS number is 311548, and the corporate one is 2289. Now, we got all of that out of the way. I want to introduce you to Captain Beau Hufstetler. Welcome aboard, Captain Hufstetler. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Jim. Jim, it's great to be here. I'm doing good. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. Sun is shining here on the base in Fort Worth, and it's great to spend some time chatting with you this morning.
I have enjoyed going to that base, and one of the things that's unique is it's a Naval Air Station, but it's a joint reserve. So you've got everybody there. You got the Air Force, you got the Marines. Well, what can I say about that? But the Army. And you've also got on the west side of the base, one of the biggest manufacturing plants I've ever seen where they make the F-35. So you've got so much. You've got about 10,000 people involved in that base. What a fantastic opportunity and a job to get involved and get involved in Fort Worth. What a great city.
It is. Yeah, this base has a rich history. It was established as Carswell Air Force Base back during World War II to support the war effort. And back in the early mid 90s, it transitioned to be a Naval Air Station. And so we have an all Navy staff that runs the base. But yeah, like you said, we have Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, Navy units all operating out of here 24/7. And really being a joint reserve base is unique. There's only, two Naval Air Station joint reserve bases, us in New Orleans. And so we provide an opportunity for the reserve mission to thrive. And as you know, the DFW area has a lot of folks that are still wearing the uniform in a reserve status. And so they get to come here, they get to operate with their units, as their schedules allow, as the operational missions pop up. So that's right. Yeah, when we're at full strength, we're around 10,000 people. And so when we're doing our reserve drill weekends or we have operational commitments that pop up, the base gets it's hopping when they're all here. So
absolutely. And a lot of people don't know, in 2017 we had, when Mike was CO of the base, we had the Blue Angels come in and they put on a tremendous air show, and other groups came in, and antique warbirds came in. You're getting ready to do that again in April, aren't you?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's the first time since then that we're going to have the Blues here. And I'm sure folks that probably are watching your podcast have been to an air show or two. But if you haven't been to a Blue Angels air show, it's unreal. Just the how amazing that demonstration team is, and the skill and professionalism that team brings. They were just here earlier this week. They flew in for the December visit, just to see the area, meet our team, talk about the plan for April. So we got a lot of steam going behind this event. There's a lot of local communities around the base that are all pitching in and getting ready. And so we're excited. Yeah, like you said, there's static displays. There will be many different demonstration teams that come and perform, games for the kids, good food, and I think we still got some space for some sponsors too. So you can hit us up on our Facebook page and find out how you can jump in and take part. But yeah, we'll see. We could see anywhere from 150, 200,000 people over the course of April 13th and 14th. So it'll be a show, I promise.
It was fantastic back in 17, and I can say that because I was the MC for the Welcome Home Vietnam, and I enjoyed that and enjoyed getting to know all of the people that were involved. But one of the most interesting things is you are a Navy captain. You went to the academy, which is a wonderful accomplishment, one of the greatest educations in the world. But Skipper, what motivated you to go to the academy? What motivated you to go into the Navy? I mean, it's that's a wonderful thing and a great opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the honest truth is my first connection to the Naval Academy. I grew up in Canton, Ohio. As you know, that's pretty far from the ocean and naval ships. So, and I played football and basketball in high school, and I had an amazing football coach who just taught me a lot of life lessons, and he was really my first connection. He actually got me connected with the football team down in Annapolis, and so that was my initial entry into understanding about the Naval Academy was through the football team, and so I ended up getting recruited and went down there and played some special teams. Was not the crowning accomplishment of my life, my football performance, but it was a great connection to a great place. And I'll tell you, I was really on the fence. I was like most high school kids. You don't know what you want to do for sure. And you got all these options out there. And I was trying to decide between Ohio State. I was going to be a sports physical therapist. This was something I was really excited about. But then I found out about the Naval Academy, and I went down and I took a visit down to the campus. And if you haven't been on the campus in Annapolis, it's amazing. All the service academies are great in their own regard. Navy is obviously far and away better than the rest. But if you take the trip down there and you walk around that campus and you see the history, it's amazing. And I went back home and had some long, hard discussions with my family, and I really just kept getting drawn back to, man, that would be a challenge. That would be something different. And I didn't know anything about it. I went to school, and some of these kids had parents or whatever that had gone. I knew nothing about it. So when I showed up day one, it was, I knew nothing.
Welcome to culture shock, right?
Welcome to the United States Navy. And so it was, ultimately, I've never regretted that decision to go there. I think, I had parents and teachers and coaches who I think instilled in me and the people that I was around just a really strong work ethic and a desire to not back down from challenges. And so if that is something that interests you, for those that listen to this, if you're someone who likes to take on a challenge and you want to pursue, and that's really, I think, I have a son who's a freshman at Texas A&M, and I've got 6 kids, and they're all thinking about college and all this stuff. And, you got to choose a line of work that aligns with your passions for life and the things that you're excited about. And so for me, I love being in the Navy. I love the service that we do, that we provide to the nation. And so connecting those things, I feel like I got lucky that I found the academy. The academy kind of found me and has led me into work that has been so meaningful over, the last 23 years.
Well, I know fairly well because I worked with him, a former academy graduate who played football, Roger Staubach. He and I worked together when we were in commercial real estate for a period of time. And one of the things I've noticed about academy graduates, because when I was in the Navy, even though I was enlisted, my best friend ended up being my XO, and he was an academy graduate, Michael Bogelski. And there is a leadership, a passion that is just amazing among the men and women who go to the academy and then go on to serve. And I was just always, one of the biggest mistakes I made in my life. My parents took me to the academy when I was young, but I never really caught the fever. And my grandfather was career Navy. I made a mistake in choosing SMU over trying to get into an academy or trying to get into one of the Naval ROTC programs.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, going to the Navy was the best thing that ever happened to me. I wasn't ready to go to college. I wasn't mature enough. And yet when you went to the academy, you basically hit, the best of both worlds, boot camp and the military.
That's right. Yeah. And I'll tell you, and this, I'm not telling you something you don't know, and I'm sure the crowd knows this too, but a big part of growth, a big part of leadership is being a good follower. And I think over the years, what you learn is there's a humility that comes with understanding that leadership is not about you. It's about the people that are around you. It's about the people you're serving alongside. And so, the Naval Academy, obviously, and the ROTC programs, they're competitive to get in, and you need to work hard in high school to put yourself in a position where you can have that as an option. But once you show up day one, everybody gets their hair cut short, and everybody's wearing the same uniform, and your high school resume no longer matters.
That's right.
Baselines everyone, and you realize that, okay, what's the most important thing today? The most important thing today is this person that's sitting next to me, that she and I get through this challenge together. That my squad gets through this challenge together. And so it real quick, if you're not ready to take your eyes off yourself, you're gonna learn real quick how to do it. The military's good at that.
And it's amazing the training a naval officer goes through. And I think it's so great because we were talking before that I have met a number of flag officers, both Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and there's always a level of excellence and a level of contribution and a level of desire to serve. And it's truly amazing. And I think part of that is inherent and part of that is learned without a doubt. I think that also it's a great adventure. It is a great adventure. All of the things that you got to do are just tremendously amazing. And then when you started talking about teamwork, now I was in A4 squadrons, I was enlisted, single pilot plane, but you were flying the big boys. You were flying the P3 Orion. And then didn't you fly the Globemaster, the C-130 as well?
That was our squadron name, was the Globemasters. We flew C-40s, which is, so yeah, you're right. I flew P3s to begin with. So I was stationed out of Brunswick, Maine. That was my first duty station. I flew P3s for a little over 3 years. I was a flight instructor for King Airs, flying T-44s down in Corpus Christi. But then, I transitioned into the logistics wing, flying for the Navy, which is a massive Navy wing stationed here in Fort Worth on this base right across the street. And they manage
VR-59.
That's right. So VR-59 is one of 6 C-40 squadrons. They're all around the United States. And then C-130s, we got 5 C-130 squadrons, so 11 squadrons in that, and that's a permanent around the world footprint. And so we flew. Typically when you go out on a P3, you've got a crew of, anywhere of 8 to 12 people out there doing the mission, and then in C-40 is really no different. You got 2, maybe 3 pilots depending on the length of the mission. You got a crew chief, you got a load master, a couple second load masters back in the back of the plane to load cargo, and it's a unique environment to go to places around the world, often in austere locations, serving your brothers and sisters out there in the fleet, and the stories you can tell of these places that we go and the things that we get to see. Your staff had sent out a thing about how many places that I've been, and I was trying to count them up last night, and I got to 30 countries. That's where I stopped. I think at least 30 countries, and
you got to go both packs. You got to go Mediterranean,
right.
East Pack, Bahrain, West Pack as well. How fun! And a lot of people don't know when we're talking about the P3 Orion. That was a big 4-engine turboprop plane that was used for, first of all, I remember seeing it in anti-submarine warfare.
That's correct.
And then it went on to be an observation plane, and you were doing electronic observation and things like that, weren't you?
That's correct. Yeah. That was a Cold War era aircraft that has recently been replaced by the P-8 aircraft. But yeah, that's correct. It was born out of anti-submarine warfare. And then when we were in Iraq and really fighting the land war there, that's what I did. Really, my last year was flying ISR over Iraq, helping the Marines on the ground. So it was it's a dynamic aircraft, and it served some good years. And I'm sure you got some folks in the local area that, if I know there's plenty in the DFW area that have that history. It was a rich experience for me. I had a phenomenal crew and just got to do a wide range of missions. We did humanitarian assistance missions. One mission that I can look back on that was probably one of my favorite missions back in 2004 when that tsunami hit around Thailand and Sri Lanka. My crew was the ready launch crew out of Kadena Air Base in Okinawa that night that tsunami hit. We were the first U.S. aircraft in the AOR, and I found myself, that was my very first deployment. I was a second pilot at the time, flying across the middle of the ocean in the middle of the night to some place I'd never been before. And that mission was humbling. We learned a lot that night. We woke up the next morning. We flew and took surveillance of the whole Sri Lanka area, and horrible weather on the backside of that tsunami. And we dipped down about 500 feet above the water, and we poked through the clouds. And when we did, we were looking for the coastline. It wasn't there. All the things you would typically see are not there. We were like, maybe we're in the wrong place. And sure enough, it was all washed up on shore.
Oh, wow.
Inland. So it was.
I got to tell you, 500 feet above the water, that's not friendly territory. That's a lot of fun. But I got to tell you, I'm sure that, and you don't need to do that, but you could go back and name every one of your crew members, your navigation, your NFO, your co-pilot, the whole nine thing. And it's great to be a part of a great team. So we want to continue this conversation with Captain Beau Hufstetler, the new commanding officer of the Fort Worth, Dallas Joint Reserve Base. I'm not sure I always get it all right when we're talking about it because it's changed hands. It was originally Carswell Air Force Base. Now it's a Joint Reserve Base that everybody gets to go to. So this is a great opportunity. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the great adventure of being a Navy pilot. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show, and thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Well, welcome aboard. If you're just now tuning in, I'd like for you to meet Captain Beau Hufstetler, Skipper, the new CO of the Joint Reserve Base in Fort Worth, the Carswell Air Force Base. It is a fantastic base. I have had the great good fortune to be involved since 2015 with many of the commanding officers and doing things for the base. And we work with Sea Cadets. So I got to tell you, it's a great facility. At its peak, about 10,000 people will come under Captain Hufstetler's command. Skipper, we were talking about, though, flying and how much fun that is. And I can tell you, I love real estate. So me taking care of a giant property like that would be a walk in the park. I love it. But flying the P3 Orion, how great is that? And you were talking about going to Sri Lanka, trying to do reconnaissance over after a great tsunami, 500 feet above the water. What a great adventure. How much fun was that?
Yeah, it was. It was. It's really where you just start to see how big the world is and how small you are. And you know, the humanitarian assistance missions that we did were were some very meaningful work. You know, to drop in, and then you see the way that the United States takes care of other countries. That, you know, after this big tsunami, we had humanitarian assistance on the ground to help those people out within 24, 48 hours. But yeah, the flying part is really unique. The P3s, that probably was the most fun. Was, we were authorized to go down to 200 feet above the water, and it was when you're in an aircraft that large, it feels like you're kind of skimming the water. And by the time that I was flying them in 2003, 2004, when I started flying it, those planes had a few hours on them. So you're always pretty mindful of how you care for that aircraft. You got to trust your mechanics. You got to trust your flight engineers to maintain those aircraft and keep them flying for that length of time. But the actual flying part is just so fun. And you know this with aircraft. The more you fly them and the more they just kind of become second nature. It's just like, I mean, I guess it's kind of like a car in the fact that it just becomes easy to fly, but the fact that you're doing it in the air and you're seeing all these great places around the world and operating with some of the best men and women that serve this country, it's really great. And I've loved that part of it for sure. You gotta, part of it is, and I think, really for pilots, you got to be able to handle emergencies and malfunctions that pop up on aircraft and dynamic missions that change, that just progress throughout a mission, and so being able to adapt and handle that adversity is a skill that gets drilled into all military service members, no matter what you do. But certainly for pilots, it's a big part of the game. So yeah, those missions were unforgettable for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. And again, what a beautiful aircraft. You get to go all over the world. Now, you're not doing a fighter plane's job, but without you, the fighter plane probably wouldn't be able to do it half as effective. And you were doing that in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
It's quite an experience. It's quite an experience to be in a close-knit squadron. Mm-hmm. Again, but at the Naval Academy, what was your education in? What did you get your degree in, if I may ask?
Yeah, I got my degree in mechanical engineering. Everybody that goes there gets a Bachelor of Science in whatever field of study that you're going to. Well, I guess I'm not really the Naval Academy spokesperson, so there could be some changes that have taken place. But I've got buddies that got kids there, so I think I'm pretty close. Bottom line is everybody's going to get a little bit of science and mathematics background, just which is extremely important for officers in general. But yeah, I was mechanical engineering, but there's language, there's history, English, there's naval architecture, there's cyber, there's physics, political science, all those types of majors that you would see in other schools that the academies, service academies have as well. So yeah, it's a 4-year degree and a pretty heavy course load. But you get to take some electives, and it's from an academic standpoint, it's a rigorous course of study, and you get the degree, but you're also doing the military training as well, and that really never stops while you're there.
Well, that's part of the military. Train.
Yeah.
Even after I went to the fleet with the squadrons that I was in, we were always training. I was doing firefighting training, firefighting school, and everything else we did. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important, because what a lot of people don't realize is, well, maybe I don't want to be an accountant, or maybe I don't want to be a mechanical engineer. But if you get started and you have that mindset of training, then you go on to the next thing that you're passionate about. Then you get the certification. Then you become a CPA, or then you become a specialist. And I happen to know that the very first second pilot that flew for Southwest Airlines, guess where he came from?
Where's that?
He was a P3 driver from the Navy,
Yeah.
Because I have had great friends that worked for Southwest Airlines. And so it's a great jump in a career. We were talking earlier about my friend Admiral Doug Beal. He is now an American Airlines pilot, and he was an F-18 driver.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got so much experience in the what is it, the C-40?
C-40,
That's
yeah.
basically a 737, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a 737 700 series with the cargo door inside of it. It's considered convertible, which means that in the interior, you can fly it with 121 seats. Back to front looks like a Southwest Airlines plane when you jump in. You can fly it with 3 pallets of cargo and 60, 70 seats in the back, or all cargo. So it's a really neat aircraft that Boeing designed for us.
It is. It's a fantastic plane. And I happen to know Dan Bradley, who's your VR-59 CO.
I taught him down at VT31. He was one of my students.
Really?
Right,
okay,
yeah.
guys. I want to go flying with you. You can go flying with Ashley and I, but I want to go flying with you. I tell you what, we're having a great time this Saturday morning talking with Captain Beau Hufstetler, the new commanding officer of the Fort Worth Joint Reserve Base, the old Carswell. It's a great opportunity to have you aboard, especially a young guy from Ohio. Have you gotten your cowboy boots yet? Because you're now a Texan, brother.
You got a pair. I got my pair. I'm working on my howdies.
All right. We're going to come right back and talk more with Captain Hufstetler right after these words from all of our partners. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. Well, I'm having too much fun whenever I get a chance to talk to a Navy pilot, because I was enlisted in the Navy and all of my pilots were inspirational guys. They motivated me, A, to go back to college and get a degree, and B, to become a private pilot. And the guy that taught me to fly was a Navy commander, retired. So I have a real closeness, including my family. I'm third generation Navy. It's important that people know, though, the Navy, when you join the Navy, you're going to see the world.
Yeah.
You were talking about 30 bases, right, Beau?
Yeah, 30 countries, and we've flown everywhere. You know, I'm gonna put my recruiting hat on, I guess, a little bit here, but
Please do.
So it's not disingenuous when I say this, but you know, when you get out of high school, I think, you know, looking back on it, you're pretty new in life. You're pretty green, and whether you enlist in the military and serve one enlistment of 4 years, or you do however much time, and or you become an officer and you put in one set of one commitment, 5 years or 8 years, 10 years, whatever that looks like. You learn so much in a short amount of time. You see so many different things. You're around such a diverse group of people. You get out of your hometown for a time. You get to see all these different things and have these experiences that you can never trade in. And if you decide that you want to pursue something else in life, then you can go pursue that. And you're still going to be pretty young. You still got some time, God willing, you got some time to go pursue other careers, but you never lose those experiences that you had, those things you got to see. And, as we said, this is a joint reserve base. So one of the missions that the missions that we support here, a lot of them are supplemented by reserve men and women in the reserves. So we have, you mentioned VR-59 here, that squadron, they've got they probably have about 35, 40 pilots in that wardroom. 10 or 12 of them are full-time active duty. We call them TAR, like myself, that do the day-to-day operations. But the other 25 are flying for Southwest Airlines, American Airlines, Delta, the FedEx, UPS. They're doing that on the outside. And then they come put the uniform on, maybe 1 week, 2 weeks out of a month when they get time or when the missions pop up. They come in, they put their uniforms on, and we get to benefit from all their skills and talent to fly logistics missions around the globe and support the military. So there's really an avenue, whether you come in and you serve a short amount of time or you put in a 30-year career. or you transition to reserve service and do both at the same time, there's just so many opportunities, and you just can't replace that experience early on in your life. So,
Skipper, when you say a 30-year career, one of the things to think about, you graduated from college probably when you were 21, 22.
yes.
Okay. Yep. Add 30 years to that. You're then going to transition out typically 30 to 32 years or 33 years, unless you were the Rickover. And I think he was 110 when he finally got out, but that's a joke. You're ready to go for a whole nother career.
That's right.
Just like so many of my friends, and I've had Army who went into the legal profession. They went to law school, and they went on to do some incredible things. I don't know if you know Admiral Pat Walsh, but he was Vice CNO. He was commander of the Pacific Fleet. He is now the president of a preparatory school for children in one of the toughest neighborhoods in Dallas.
Oh, that's
he
great.
Is leading Cristo Rey, and these kids are all graduating. All of them are getting opportunities because I think a lot of it has to do with his leadership.
Yeah.
The other thing is, once you get out, you never put your hand down. You're still serving. Yeah. Every man and woman that I have worked with over the last 8 to 10 years is still doing things in the community, building the community up, doing important things, working with the VA, etc. So it becomes a lifelong passion. And for those who don't necessarily want to be a pilot or don't necessarily want to be an officer, let me tell you, the jobs that are amazing, that are open to aircraft mechanics, to engineers, to all kinds of people. And how big is that Lockheed Martin facility there on your base?
Yeah. I mean, you're bringing up great points. You know, even on our staff, we have lots of civilians, some who have served previously and decide they just love being around it. So they come back and once they're retired or separated, and they come back and do the same type of support as a civilian. We have hundreds of those personnel on our base that support our military in a civilian status. So, and then, you mentioned on the west side of the runway is Lockheed Martin. And so, you know, you talk about an area that is rich in aviation history and general dynamics and producing bombers for World War II and just the rich history that comes with those buildings on the west side of our runway. If you have a passion to serve in that way to support our nation's armed forces, there's plenty of opportunities to do it and plenty of different ways to do it. So, I'm glad you bring that up. It's our teams could not function with only our uniformed service members. It takes a large civilian and local community support to make it happen. And luckily, you know, I'll tell you, my staff here is, I've only been here for a short time. They're phenomenal. The civilians that work here, they want to be here. They love Fort Worth. They love this base. And I couldn't be more impressed with the civilians that we got on our staff.
Now, your wife, I met her. What a wonderful lady. And she's getting acclimated, I guess, to Fort Worth. Where did she grow up? Where is she from?
Yeah, Jim, I'm going to crack open the whole book here. Julie and I met in seventh grade language arts class. Mr. Dawson's class is where I first met Julie. We both grew up in Canton, Ohio. She went to Ohio University. She got a teaching degree there. She is currently, she was raising our kids for a number of years and was out of occupational full-time work. But since we moved back to Fort Worth, she's now a teacher over at Great Hearts Lakeside. She teaches special education, middle school math. So she, in addition to being a dynamic mother and a wonderful wife, she is now serving the community in that role, and I think making huge dividends, serving the local community in that role.
That's one of the things that I have grown to know is that men and women like you in command position, their spouse generally takes a huge interest and is very integrally involved. especially with the squadrons that are deploying overseas. It's
Yeah.
the CO's wife that a lot of the things fall on. So for the military family, it's a total immersion in that. And so Julie's been with you since you were wearing blue jeans, buddy.
We got married. I got a short week between primary and advanced aircraft training down in Corpus Christi when I was first learning my trade. And we got a quick week in between there that I ran home to Ohio, got married, threw all her stuff in a U-Haul and got her down to Corpus Christi with me. So she's been on this adventure for a long time. And, I'll tell you, the military family, I think it's publicized some of the difficulties of the military family, some of the challenges that we have, of packing the bags every 3-4 years and moving to different areas. And so there are challenges there for military families. And of course we have a large family and have worked through those challenges, but the experiences that you have along the way they're building a foundation, I believe, for the kids that do that. They're resilient human beings. My boys right now, my son going to college was not a difficult thing for him in terms of leaving home and meeting a new group of people. He's done that, his whole life. And there is such a gift to learn how in military families, you don't have time to kind of hang out and not plug in. Right. And so when we moved to an area,
Uh-oh, Skipper, I don't know. You've frozen, so something's happened to our feed. There you go.
There you go.
Back?
Yeah. So I was just saying, you got to jump in right away. And the local communities where we go, like Fort Worth is our favorite place we've ever lived. That's why we're back here. We really wanted to get back here. But we're going to jump in on day one, whether that's school stuff, my kids' sports, church, wherever we're at, we're going to jump in. We're going to serve right away because we've kind of learned if we wait too long, the Navy's going to send us somewhere else, and then we lost that opportunity to engage with people. So it's a unique skill. And I think really if you approach life that way, in or out of the military, you just got to be willing to jump in and serve where your feet are planted.
And it's a community that is very unusual. I was sitting next to a guy yesterday who works for IBM, and it used to be IBM really stood for I've been moved. They did the same thing, the military, but they never, I don't think, he and I talked about it, had the same level of camaraderie and family that you find in the military. And I think that's incredibly important. And all of this builds to, what are you going to do with your life? I hear these kids going, well, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I want to have a life full of purpose. Well, let me tell you, you learn. Yeah. Now, did you ever go to sea? Were you ever stationed on ships? I didn't see that in your resume.
Well,
maybe I missed it.
You'd have to look real long and hard, Jim, because I've been a land-based aircraft pilot for my whole career. I did my sea time was really while I was at the Naval Academy. I did some time on the Pearl Harbor, and got to con a mine hunter down the Mississippi River, and that's I have had the depending on how you look at it, I have not spent much time out on the open ocean in a gray vessel, which I'm not sad about. I've enjoyed my time where I've been, but
Skipper, I did 3 cruises, 2 on the Oriskany and 1 on the Hancock, which were old World War II carriers, and many of my senior enlisted and some in our flag were World War II that had served in World War II.
Yeah.
And those were some of the most amazing men that I ever met.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, a lot of people say, gosh, I'd hate going to sea. Man, I love it. My wife says, hey, let's go on a cruise ship. I'm like, let's go. I love it. There is nothing like a sunset or a sunrise at sea. And sometime I'll have lunch and I'll tell you some great stories, which we can't go into now. But again, the adventure, the stories. You had talked about flying to Sri Lanka. I bet there were some other stories that you got to do some of these missions. Tell me about some of that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when I think about some of the most fun places I went, they were the obscure islands in the middle of nowhere. So we got to, when I was flying P3s, we got to do we flew a detachment down to the Micronesian islands, and I got to fly out of Palau and Ponape, landing in runways with water on either side of them, and got to swim with the jellyfish in the Crater Lake on Palau, and then that was phenomenal. When I was in C-40s, we got to fly down to the Seychelles Island, which is off the east coast of Africa, out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Unbelievably beautiful area. But when you're in the Navy, you're supporting ships that are deployed around the globe. They're everywhere, right? So if there's a ship that has a part that goes down and they need emergency assistance, well, we're going to put a part in the back of a C-40 or C-130, and we're going to have it there within 24 hours. We're going to get that mission done for them. That's why we exist. So Diego Garcia is another place. You're not going to Diego Garcia unless you're in the military. And
that is the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
That's Indian Ocean. That's Indian Ocean territory down there, but it is in the middle of nowhere. And I'll tell you, if you want to see the stars at night, you go there. There's no other lights. There's no city there. It's you land on this little island, and I've had some adventuresome stories going into that place, because when you're flying a large aircraft, you only got so much gas. So when you fly somewhere that is in the middle of nowhere and you got no diverts to go to, guess where you're going to land? You're going to land at that field, one way or another, no matter what the weather is or what's going on. And so
you get pretty good at crosswind landings, don't you?
You got no other options. Yeah. So there's some places we go that that's one of those places where you land and you just kind of realize what a special job you have. And they've even got their own little officer club in Diego Garcia that sits right out on the point of the island there, with water on all sides, and it's been there for years. And just to sit and kind of and enjoy the history and the tradition of the people that have walked through those doors and the things that they were supporting and doing for our nation and for our military, and to go and spend some time there, it's really unique, and certainly made some good memories. We made some good memories sitting at that officers club celebrating a long mission.
My buddies told me so many stories about the old club at QB Point. Was that named Rosie's or something yeah. And we can't tell a lot of those stories.
No.
And Tom Cruise didn't portray that place in his movies either.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some stories that you keep to the team, and there's some stories to share, but it's the camaraderie part of it, where, and when you're a deployed service member and you're gone for 7 months and your family's back home. I deployed, my oldest son now, who's 19, I deployed when he was 6 months old, and my next oldest son is 17. I deployed when he was 6 months old. And when you're away from home, there's a couple things you got to do. You got to stay focused on your mission. You can't get distracted when you're out there and you're flying around a machine worth $50 million or $100 million, whatever it is that you're flying around. You have to be singly focused. And so the camaraderie you have from being around the men and women on your crew or on your ship, it keeps you focused on the mission that's at hand and supporting your family back home.
Mike, one of the things I found as a private pilot, let me interject this. When I go and I sit down and I do my flight plan and I go out there and I start pre-flight in that plane, I change. I'm not a husband.
Yeah.
I'm not a businessman. I'm a pilot.
That's right.
And whether I'm a civilian pilot or a military pilot, you're first and foremost a pilot. And when you get in the air and you plug into air traffic control, you are part of a system that you got to pay attention. And what I have found is that focus enables me to totally relax. I think it's the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah, you dial it in.
You do. Okay, guys, we're going to come back in just a couple of minutes. We're going to take a break to hear from all of my partners. But I got to tell you, this is a great opportunity to hear from a great man. So stay with us. This is Veterans Impact. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. And thanks to our sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage and Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Now, let's continue this great conversation. I got to tell you, this is too much fun anytime I get to talk to a Navy pilot. Also, I want to throw out, hey, you can go take a look at the Navy. Find out every opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
If you're sitting at home and you're going to go, what am I going to do? And that's what happened to Diane's grandson. We said to him, take a look. And he goes, I want to be a Marine. He is right now a Marine in Iwakuni, Japan, and he's having an adventure. Yeah. I got to tell you, there's so many opportunities in the military today to learn and grow. And we've been kind of having a recruiting discussion with Captain Hufstetler, but it was fun. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And a lot of times I hear people go, well, I wouldn't want my children to serve. Well, let me tell you, I wish my boys had. I wish I'd pushed it harder, because it's a great adventure. And many of our best friends right now are men just like Captain Hufstetler, and women, Ginger Simonson, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army. And a lot of people say, hey, the tough on Navy families, tough on military families. I work with the Army Scholarship Foundation, helping them do scholarships. And let me tell you something. Those kids, you hit it, Skipper. You hit it right on the head. They're resilient. They're resourceful. They know how to get things done. You read those resumes and you go, wow, this is a high school kid. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something. I think that's one of the best things. I wish my dad had stayed in. I wish I'd have had a chance to go to Rota, Spain, and you weren't there, I'm sure. Many other places, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it is. It's a unique thing. And transitioning back here to Fort Worth, of course, we have a great local community, but to see I've got two of my kids are in high school right now, freshman and senior. And some people would say you never want to move a kid when he's a senior. And but you know what? Like, he jumped in, and he's starting point guard on his basketball team. And my freshman jumped in and got to start playing football with his team this off season. They know how to jump in and get to work. And I just really appreciate that. And of course, that's every kid's going to be different. They're going to have their own story, but to see them do that, it just makes me such a proud dad to see them jump in like that and take on the next challenge that's ahead of them.
I think generation after generation, and somebody might challenge me on this, but since we no longer have the draft and people aren't kind of forced to go in and serve, I think generations have missed out on all the leadership, the learning opportunities, the friendship development. I'm a proponent for, let's have a chance to get everybody together and work together as a team. Working together. And you know this as well as I do. You can't operate, whether it's a fighter or a P-3 Orion or a helicopter, you can't operate it if you're not part of a team.
No, you got to. And you're right. You don't want to miss out on that. And we've got competitors in this world. We got people out there that are our enemies. And history would tell us that there's people that want a different way of life than America desires. And so you don't want to have to relearn all those lessons 10 years, 5 years, whenever that time comes. You got to be ready. You got to be prepared. And keeping a strong military is vital to that. And keeping the community connected to what the military is doing is vital to that.
This is the one country in the world where people are beating down the door to get in. And I think that's good, because a lot of them are serving who come in legally. A lot of them are serving in the military, and I meet a lot of them. And they talk about America, and you go, wow, this is not what I'm hearing from a lot of people.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an amazing focus. I got to tell you, I want to say a super thank you to you, and again, offer whatever I can do to help. And when you come up in April, if I can help in any way, let me know, because that's going to be a great event and a great show. Blue Angels, I've seen them at the Joint Reserve Base. I grew up watching them, and I've seen them at Pensacola practicing. That's a trip. But you know what'd be the most fun thing?
What's that?
Riding in that C-130 when that guy does that short field landing and that takeoff. I mean, that is something else, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yeah, it'll be a great show. And of course, veterans and military service members get to take part in this base all the time and come down and use commissary. And we've got a marina and a great lake here at Lake Worth to go out and take your boat out. And all the different, we got an indoor pool. There's a lot of things that the veterans and this active duty service members, reserve service members take part in. But April 13th and 14th, everybody gets to come on in. So it's open to the public. It's a free event. So if you're looking for something fun to do with the family, it's a great way to take part and get a little snapshot of what the military does.
And I guarantee you, I'll get with your PAO and we'll have another program just to talk about that and the Blue
That sounds
Angel.
great.
Those guys are truly amazing. So,
yeah,
Skipper, I always want a quick word. We have been doing almost an hour talking about joining the military. So I know what you'd say to a young man or woman about joining the military. You'd say, jump in.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. You know, our having a heart of service and growing a heart of service is what I think we were designed to do. We were designed to serve, and getting in the military and the opportunities that you have to grow in serving other people, taking on new leadership challenges, and taking part in a mission that is extremely exciting is like no other. So yeah, I can't give it a bigger vote of confidence. Obviously, I've been commissioned for 23 years and left home 27 years ago to start wearing a uniform, and have thought about doing other things along the way, and I just have enjoyed wearing the uniform so much that I've been thankful to make it a lifelong career so far.
You know what? We're going to have plenty of things for you to do when you do decide to transition. So I like to close with a prayer. Father God, we just thank you so much for men like Captain Beau Hufstetler and the men and women of our active duty military. Please put your hedge of protection around them. And thank you, God, for letting them know how much we love them and care about them this holiday season. Dear God, thank you for our veterans who are leading the way in industry to bring this nation back together. It's important that we learn the lessons of working together and bring this nation back together. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This we pray in your holy name. Amen. And thank you, Lord. Beau, thank you so much for being on board, man.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. It was super fun. I hope we get to do it again sometime. I look forward to hanging out with you.
Let's do it again. And I got to tell you, Ashley, my son, loved me. I'll get you hooked up, and